Hello and welcome to the final Rocksmith developer stream of 2020. We finally made it, everybody. I'm the Rocksmith community manager and the host this week, Brian Turner, but you probably know me better as UB Jurassic. Don't worry, I haven't done anything with Doug. He's currently at home recovering from a case of missing wisdom teeth. We wish him a speedy recovery and hopefully he's back to eating some solid foods by the time the holidays roll around. We actually have UB Yubble in the chat if you haven't noticed already. He'll be here this week collecting your questions and sending them over to me for myself to answer or my guests, as well as giving away a few song pack codes, but that'll be happening a little bit later in the stream. If this is your first time tuning in, this is a good time because we're switching things up a little bit. Normally, we have our members of the Rocksmith team on to chat and answer a few questions, and then we have a community guest who plays a few of their favorite songs from the Rocksmith DLC library. However, this week we have three absolutely wonderful members of the community on live today to chat with us, and our developers will be holding things down the music front with a few appropriately themed holiday tunes. This week, we're actually going to be discussing starting out as a musician. We wanted to highlight that there's not any one way people get into music at one time or another. People are inspired by someone or something to undertake a journey to start playing music. And no matter how or when you start, things are not as easy as they seem. Learning an instrument is a process, and who better to talk about that with than several members of our community. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our wonderful chat guests for this week, Griff, Toymachinesh, and Chainbrain. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
So just in case our viewers aren't familiar with who you all are, let's go ahead and do a little bit of an introduction here. Chainbrain, since I introduced you last in on that, we're going to start with you first, work our way over to Toy Machine, and then we'll have Griff.
Well, hello. My name is James, otherwise known as Chainbrain. You probably have seen me on, YouTube or Twitch or whatever, playing the old Rocksmith.
And Elliot.
I'm Toy Machine. I run the riff repeater. I don't play the guitar or bass on it, but I type the things.
All right, and I am Griff. I stream on Twitch. I'm a Rocksmith bassist and a variety gamer and crafter.
Thank you all for that. I want to go ahead and thank you all again for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have all of y'all here. And let's go ahead and kick this discussion off. I'm going to go ahead and talk about how you all got interested in learning to play an instrument. Was there a parent or a sibling? Did it just sound cool? Did you have friends that were also doing it? And was it guitar your first instrument, or did you start with something else? Let's start with Toy Machine.
So growing up, all my friends were musicians, like literally all of them, like people that went to university for classical guitar, people that were in multiple bands. So I always wanted to play music, but I was more, like into like skateboarding and stuff like that. So it wasn't until my cousin bought a Buckethead. Sorry, he traded for a Buckethead VHS tape. When I saw Nottingham Lace, I knew I had to learn how to play that, just a little bit of it, like even just like the littlest amount of it. So I bought my friend's guitar for like $70, $80 and his amp. And I remember I would stare at Olga, which doesn't even exist, an online guitar archive, and I would just try to learn like these little riffs on tab on a Yamaha Pacifica. And I mean, it was hard, and I didn't really understand. All my friends were kind of like, this is how you do a G chord, and they would take my fingers and try to twist it into some weird shape that I wasn't comfortable with. And I would look at tabs online, I would see like 3 5 4 3, and I wouldn't understand that was what a bar chord was. So I kind of like started playing Guitar Hero until 2011 when Rocksmith came out, and I was like, wait, okay, this makes sense. And then I bought a newer guitar and I really dove into it, and here we are.
The $70 sounds like a absolute steal for a guitar and an amp.
Yeah, I think he just wanted the new PlayStation 1, like the smaller one. So he was like, "You want to buy this guitar that's been sitting here?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect."
Sounds like you both got a steal on that one then. He had his priorities set for that PlayStation. Let's go ahead and move to Griff. Griff, how did you get into music?
So, I've kind of always been musical. My dad kind of raised me on classic rocks like Journey, Foreigner, the like. And
Good
my
stuff.
mom is a singer, and she played clarinet when she was in high school. So it kind of sort of naturally came down to me doing the music stuff. And I was in choir for years and stuff, but like when I first started learning how to play guitar, I think I was about like 12 years old. It was on my father's like old dinky acoustic guitar. Don't even remember what that was, but I just remember starting my journey then. And then that was about, oh gosh, I think 2007. And then the first Rocksmith came out, and my parents had gotten it for me for the 360. So that's kind of where my Rocksmith journey started. But I feel like I had a kind of a shift in direction because I was learning lead guitar for years and years and years and couldn't really figure it out. But, then I found my love for the bass, and it, the rest is history at that point.
Well, you're talking about old dinky acoustic guitars. I got old dinky back here. This one is a no-name Fender I inherited from my sister when she went to college. And I just called her up one day and I said, "It's mine now. You can't stop me. You're 6 hours away. I'm learning to play." So I definitely sympathize with that. So Chainbrain, how did you get into music?
So I mean, if anybody's ever watched my stream, I always talk about my dad, how he's like a mega influence on me. My dad is like, he's just like an 80s thrasher. That's, I grew up, my dad was a metalhead, so we're listening to like Metallica and Iron Maiden and like Death, like some of the heavier stuff too. And oddly enough, the first instrument I ever played was the flute. I was forced to play an instrument in grade school. And I mean, flute's cool, whatever, but it's not, you're not shredding. It's not a guitar.
Wait, have you listened to Jeff Rotel? That's
Yeah,
a
okay. Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Um, Actually, my first guitar, though, my parents bought for me. It was a secondhand Jackson Dinky, and my parents got it for me when I was 7 years old. And my dad, is a guitar player. We sat down a couple times, and he's trying to show me some riffs. And I'm 7 years old. I'm like, I want to play Pokemon or whatever. Like, this is hard. I don't want to do this. So under my bed, the guitar went until I was around 14 years old. And my best friend at the time, his parents bought him a guitar. And then he was, he started learning, and he was like learning Metallica and Iron Maiden stuff. And I was like getting kind of jealous because like I had a guitar, but I couldn't do that stuff. So I was like, you know what? Like, we were best friends, but it was kind of became like a friendly competition thing. So it's like, all right, let's get the guitar from under the bed, learn how to put strings on it, and then, print out a stack of guitar tabs, and just that's where it all started for me. Yep.
Just started learning a whole stack of guitar tabs.
Yeah, basically, I had Aces High, Iron Maiden, and I sat down and I was like, I'm not, it was summertime. It's like, I'm not going anywhere until I can like play the first like 20 seconds or something. And I gave up a couple times, but we got there eventually. But yeah, basically, since I was 14 years old, it's just been, from there learning everything that I can.
That's really cool. And it definitely helps to have that sort of friendly competition to help urge you forward. And because it can sometimes be a little hard to find the drive to sort of stick with an instrument. It's hard. It's just really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. And so when you started learning, were you all self-taught? Did you go like, okay, I need an instructor? Did you have a family member that was already super into it already? Did you have any sort of guidance, or was this sort of a self-taught journey? We'll start with Griff.
So, most of my journey is self-taught. I took lessons for like 6 months, but honestly, it wasn't really working out for me to take lessons because it was just a difference of opinion, difference of music taste. So, at the end of the day, like I just self-taught is the way, and then Rocksmith was a huge help with that as well.
That's great. And personally, I started out self-taught. My sister was trying to get into lessons. There's a whole lot of different things that people are able to get into music, and what's the most comfortable for them to do that. Chain, did you have somebody helping you, or did you get some lessons, or were you self-taught as well?
Well, so like I said, my dad was like a thrasher. My dad also plays guitar, so that's like, you know, he every once in a while, but it wasn't like, you know, he was teaching me all the time. I think he kind of was like, you know, I think he had the approach of like, if I pressure him to do stuff or whatever, like I'd probably lose interest, which is, you know, probably would have happened because it's like, hey, this is annoying. I'm gonna go play video games instead. So I kind of just like took stuff at my own pace. Like guitar tabs was a big thing. Um, my friend that I said, you know, was, you know, we were kind of like bouncing back and forth between each other, like improving. He started taking lessons, and so I got jealous, and I was like, well, now I got to take lessons because you know he's gonna get so much better. But the funny thing was, he went to go start lessons, and the first song that the instructor had him learn was "Damn It" by Blink 182. And at the time, I was like very like, you know, I was you know, don't think outside the box metalhead. Like, so I don't want to learn Blink 182. So I was gonna go get lessons from the same guy, and I was like, oh, you're learning Blink 182? Like, okay, never mind. Like, I don't want that. So which I regret because, you know, now I see like the importance of music theory and stuff like that, and I don't know any of that stuff. So it's just like the whole lesson thing is like a big regret for me that I didn't do. But yeah, so I have like technical ability as a guitar player, but I guess I'm kind of dumb in that regard. Like I don't actually know what I'm doing. being self-taught.
Well, I think a lot of people would say that you're a very talented guitar player, and I don't think a lot of people would have that sort of perspective, that you would think that you're dumb in any sort of aspect like that. And so it's nice for people to hear that sort of perspective. It's hard to think that's at any point any of us are really good at something, because it almost feels like we're working towards that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now, Elliot.
Yeah, so as I said, like learning was mostly staring at the computer. I never had like back then. I never like got a lesson per se. My family wasn't really musical. Like I know a lot of families like grow up where there's like do like practice a musical instrument like it's good for you. Like that was never a thing growing up in my family or any. I think my whole family there isn't really any musicians to be honest. But my friend, I remember he was like, if you want to learn something, like, and get your fingers moving, he like literally tabbed out like by hand, like on this little piece of paper, Hall of the Mountain King, like da 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 da. So like I would practice that, and he showed me like the scale, and he's like just play that like every day for like 10 minutes, or like and try to like play like get it by a net metronome, or try to stay on time, like don't slow down. So that's literally what I did until I hit a giant roadblock that wasn't overcome until I saw the visual tablature of Rocksmith. So until then, I was like stuck as just like someone just playing like power chords and playing like the few like Buckethead riffs that sounded like approachable or somewhat cool. So yeah, I mean, not learning per se, but more like how my musical journey of like actually having a guitar in my hands and being able to do something with it and having all these friends that were like jamming, and then they're like, "Oh, you want to jam with us, but you can't play anything." I'm like, "Well, I can make noise." So so we played punk rock.
See, that's how I started out as a drummer, so that I only had to make noise. It didn't have to be coherent in any sort of way, really. I didn't have to have a lot of dexterity with my fingers. I just need to hit stuff really fast and in a somewhat rhythmic pattern. Uh, but yeah, I think it's really cool that you actually started out with a metronome. I think that's not something that I think a lot of people uh, think to go out and buy when they're first starting to get their guitar and everything. People just without having a guiding hand, a lot of people sort of get the instrument, they get the necessities that they need, and they're like, all right, I'm learning to play this lick right here. And a lot of people don't tend to think about, okay, am I playing it in time though? Because that can sometimes be a problem, especially if you're starting to jam with your friends for the first time and they're hitting things consistently, and all of a sudden you are like 2 measures ahead. So I think that's really cool. So the next thing I want to talk about is, what was your first roadblock that you encountered when you were first starting to learn to play? And I want to go ahead and start off with Chain on this one.
So I can't remember specifically what riff it was that I was learning, but I remember there was a riff I was trying to learn, and it became like I have to use my pinky. Like, you probably see like newer guitar players or beginners, like they always do like the 3 fingers, and the pinky's kind of like an afterthought. I remember there was one riff that I had to learn, and it was like there's no way about it. Like I got to use my pinky finger, and it just wouldn't do it. It wouldn't do the thing. Like, and I remember that being like a very like disheartening moment, because it kind of made me realize, like, yeah, I was playing every single riff up until that point, like not even using a pinky finger. And then it was like rude awakening, like, all right, my technique is probably not the best right now. So it became like all right, for an hour a day, I'm going to do the 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, like ascending descending to get that pinky strength up. But yeah, that was probably like the first, after I started playing, that was probably the first, like, oh man, like like I don't know if I can keep doing this, because it was just, there was a mountain there that I definitely had to overcome if I wanted to get better. And historically, up to that point, I would just give up. Like I would quit. So
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people end up struggling with their pinky. It's easy to focus on those 3 fingers, and then all of a sudden, when you encounter that chord for that one song you want to learn to play, your pinky's just not up to par. You just can't keep up, and it does require that sort of practice at it. And
yeah, exactly.
That descension that you were talking about, it sounds like a pretty good technique to go ahead and start building up that pinky strength if you don't have it. Something I want to remind people in chat, if you have questions for our guests, go ahead and forward them over to UB Yubble. He'll be sending them over to me. But with that, let's go ahead and move to Elliot. Elliot, what was the first roadblock that you came across? How'd you overcome it? And does it still give you any trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I have the exact opposite of problem of Chainbrain, because I use my pinky for literally everything. So every chord is like with barring with the pinky. So I have to like, relearn how to like, or like try to force myself to not do that, because a lot of guitar teachers are like, that's fine, like just do what's comfortable. But it's just like I have very bad technique. Like if you watch any of the times I've been on the stream playing guitar, like I'm always using my pinky for everything, like soloing, riffs. This finger is never like getting any play compared to the pinky. And also the other roadblock was just in general, like having to figure out how to position your fingers, because it's like such a foreign thing, like just guitar playing. Like the human body isn't like conditioned to do like the stuff that guitarists do right away, so it takes a lot of time. And just having some like this is like 2005, 2004, like things information wise were a lot different back then. There weren't all these like YouTube videos and stuff you could watch. Just having someone be like, yeah, you just make this shape, and it's like it's hard. But the thing is that for me as a rhythm game player, when I got Rocksmith 1 and I saw a bar chord visualized in these blocks, it made perfect sense to me. Whereas when people explained it and I looked on videos and stuff, it never clicked. So it was just like I say that like Rocksmith is like the thing that took down, like extended the ceiling. Like I've hit the ceiling again, obviously. Like now I took a lesson and the guy was basically like, you have to start like you climb the mountain, but you like went around all this stuff, so now you have to go all the way back to the bottom and like learn how to do it properly. And I'm like, he's like, you can still do what you do because it works for you, but like you're gonna run into problems further down the line. So, but for like even my friends have said like, this game has actually made you better at guitar. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's interesting that you bring up bar chords because bar chords are definitely, I think, a difficulty a lot of people run into. It's everybody learns sort of their cowboy chords and maybe a few licks here and there, but then bar chords come out and people don't know what they're doing with their hands anymore. It can sometimes be a jarring thing. It's great that you found some sort of usefulness in the visualization of it, as opposed to somebody being like, okay, so you do this and you just sort of bend your fingers like that, and that's a bar chord. I definitely ran into some issues with that, and I had to take a little bit of a break for that. But Griff.
Oh, sorry. I was just
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
Like the tablature, just like imagine like just all you knew were power chords, like you could barely play a Nirvana song, and then you run into like it just like all down like the tablature. It's just like 3, 5, 5, 6. Like like when you look at that, you're like, what does that mean? And like there's no one explaining it. They're just like, this is what it is. What, you don't get it? This is how you play
What
the
did the
song.
numbers mean?
Yeah, exactly. Amazing.
All right, Griff, was there any roadblocks that you encountered when you first started learning to play either on lead or on bass?
Yeah, so I think my biggest and still constant roadblock is I will never be a lead player. There's absolutely no way. My brain doesn't work that fast. My fingers don't move that fast. It's just it's not my thing. But props to those who can do it. Like Chain shreds like crazy. But that was my first like actual roadblock, was learning to accept the fact that I will never be a lead player. But that opened up so many other doors for me, like learning rhythm guitar and falling in love with rhythm guitar, falling in love with bass. Like, yeah, that was my biggest roadblock, and still constant roadblock to this day is just, not really being able to actually play a sixth string. I fake it till you make it. That's what everyone says, right?
And I think that's a mantra that a lot of musicians really take to heart, especially if it ever feels like you're making progress. But it's easier to say that about yourself than it is when people watch you play and they're like, but that actually leads really well into our the next question, which is, was there ever a first milestone that you had that you hit that made you feel like, okay, I'm actually getting, like, I'm doing it. Like I can do the thing. I can strum the guitar. I can play something, and I'm so proud of how I got here. I don't know how I got here, and I can do that. So Griff, I'll have you start us off with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I did switch over to bass, I was feeling defeated when I switched over, because it was one of those like, oh man, like basses suck. Like I don't get it. I don't understand it. I understand it now. I understand that we are the backbone to the music, man, and no one understands that. And I think that my first milestone with that was when I was playing with a band, we ran through the full like 9.5 minutes of Jesus of Suburbia, and it just felt so damn good. It felt so good.
That's really nice. Man, that to be able to run through like 9 minutes of continuous music and be like, okay, maybe I get it. Like that you've come so far that you can actually play through all that, because that 9 minutes of music straight sounds super intimidating to me. I'm going to be terribly honest. That sounds super intimidating.
Honestly, it kind of is, because then you're like, oh, wait, hold on. What section is next? What are the lyrics again? Oh, crap. How do I play my instrument? I don't remember. But once you hit it, it's a good feeling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Chain, what about you? What was your first milestone that you were like, I'm doing this thing?
So, in my previous whatever tangent I was talking about, me and my buddy there, we were both back and forth learning guitar. So obviously we started jamming together, and we had this like it was one of the first times that we brought our amps together, and we were practicing, and we were both learning from tabs at the time, and we did like the song Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden, like the intro, the na 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 na, and like I learned the one part and he learned the other. And when we started playing it together, it was like this, and in hindsight, it probably didn't sound the best because we were both new, but like, the harmonization between both of us, it was like, whoa, like this sounds real cool. And yeah, like from there, just learning stuff together, and it kind of like unlocked, because like learning from scratch yourself, you kind of just see it as like a, you play the riff and that's that, and you play along to the song. But when you start playing with somebody else, you realize that there's a whole, some recordings have 2-3 recorded parts. You also, you got bass there, there's like so much stuff going on. And it kind of like that moment, unlocked my mind. I know it sounds kind of hippie and weird, but it's definitely how it felt at the time.
No, and it's completely understandable. Like, definitely, like if you're sort of harmonizing with somebody for the first time, you're like, wait, did we just make a music? Is that did we just did we do that?
Yeah, I mean, we probably said that too. Did we just do a music? like wow, this is crazy.
That's absolutely fantastic to hear. That's such a great milestone. Elliot, what was your first milestone?
So there was an open jam night, and I decided to bring my bass, and there were actually like quite a lot of people there because it was also like a smoke bar before it was legal here. So there was like a lot of crowd. There's a big crowd of people, and I was there with my friends, and they're both competent musicians. And I got up, and they're like, "Okay, start it off." And I played bass, and it like people were like bobbing their heads. So like the first time that I've played an actual like show, like I used to play like in my backyard for my friends, but these were a bunch of strangers, and I was playing bass. And the second song I played like this like kind of dancey bass line, and like people were actually got up and like were grooving to it. So it was like a big milestone because it was like I couldn't, as unexperienced, and like I don't know much about like music theory or anything, but I'm competent enough to play something that registers with people that I've never met. Like I'm just a guy up on a stage, and they don't know about it, they don't like me necessarily, but they like heard it, and they're like, okay, that's good enough, you know? But of course, if it was guitar, it would be a different story because that's hard. That's really hard to be a lead guitarist at an open mic thing. That takes yeah, that's like makes me nervous just thinking about it.
I mean, just being on stage in general is a very nerve-wracking thing, no matter what you're really doing. You're sitting up on a stage, you're on the spotlight, you're looking at a crowd of people. You want to not be looking at that crowd of people. You want to be back off the stage. You want to be back in that crowd. Crowds can be a very nerve-wracking thing, and it takes a lot of time to get used to that. But that's such a cool milestone that you were able to get up on stage, and people were like, "Okay, he's doing it. I like it." But
Exactly. It's like different from just like jamming with my friends and having them being like, okay, that was we had some good moments, like that was crazy, but like actually going to like a venue and like getting on stage and just playing like two jams and stuff and having people, yeah, that was a pretty big milestone for sure.
Yeah, that's such a cool memory for sure. And I guess the next thing I want to get into is what have you guys found the most valuable as you've continued to sort of grow and continue learning music? Like, was it finding motivation in the results that you saw? Was it friends and family that urged you to keep going? Like, what made you want to keep learning music? And I guess we're going to start out with Chain on this.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, for me, like that sort of thing lately, well, I mean, as I got older, it became more difficult to find that sort of, because for me, like growing up, it was all friends, like jamming with people, finally nailing a riff and a friend being like, "Well, I've been practicing that forever," like, and it was that sort of thing. But like, as we grow up and like, friends kind of separate and whatever, and like I went off to school and like I think oddly enough, like the internet really, really helped with that. Like, I when YouTube became like a big thing, like seeing all these guitar players like absolutely smash it, you know, and like not even the popular ones you would think of, like, like somebody's shred video goes viral and you're just like, well, this is amazing. Like, what are these people doing? So for me, it was really like, motivation went from like people I knew in real life to kind of like people I started to idolize online. And I say a lot to people when they ask me it, it's like I tell people like if you're starting out, it's very easy to go on Instagram and see somebody be like, wow, I'll never be that good. I just, I give up or whatever. But it's like I tell people it's like you should see stuff like that and consider it as fuel that you want to get there or motivation to get to that point. And that's kind of how I've been treating it. Like, scrolling through Instagram and seeing people do this crazy stuff. And it's like, that's cool. I want to add that to my playing if I can, or, so I think the social
Mhm.
media really has done it for me. Like for seeing stuff that I think I should practice or where I want to be kind of thing.
Yeah, I think bringing up the internet is definitely an interesting point that you've made there. Mostly because, like you said, it can sort of be a double-edged thing. You can sort of get dismayed with your own results if you're watching people just online shredding it up a bit,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
seeing it can feel overwhelming, especially with the amount of videos that are out there on the internet. But it also could be a motivating thing, like you found for Twitch. Um, and so, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Griff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and say that probably the internet and social media for me is the most valuable thing as well because, so many of my friends are streamers and they're Rocksmith streamers and it makes me want to continue to do better and also is teaching me to not compare myself to others because that's what I struggle with the most is comparing myself to others and comparing my playing, against other people's. I mean, honestly, like it's it's just been nice to have the internet and have all of our friends together just kind of rooting each other on and
Mhm.
that's been the most valuable thing to me, especially like with streaming, like 100%.
Oh yeah, it can definitely be a very empowering thing to have a community of people and a community of friends, and even a community online to just sort of help push you forward like that. That's such a great thing to have. And then Elliot.
For me, it's just like listening to lots of music, and that's always what I've done. I've tried to find new and interesting things to listen to, but also, I mean, I listen to some pretty weird stuff, and I have friends that all they listen to is Fish. So when it comes to jamming with them, I try if someone's playing bass and I'm on lead, I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try to hippie it out a bit, and that's a challenge for me because I'm like a person that I like aggressive, I like heavy stuff when I'm jamming. So
Mhm.
just kind of like try to expand your styles and like like I always say that about Rocksmith like on Twitter and forums and stuff like that, but it's true that like if they're playing like try to play like reggae style or like try to play like like Santana or something when there's like a nice like a groove, a samba that comes up. um so I just find that kind of limiting yourself to certain styles like in those situations can really help you grow as a musician, like even as something as simple as like taking like electronic music sensibility to like a jam, like just textural guitar and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and just like kind of exploring all these different genres and helping yourself grow as a musician. Like try to play something that sounds jazzy even though you have no idea what you're doing. Just just see what you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and it's really cool to be able to bring those sort of sensibilities forward, and it can help sort of vary up everything. Well, we have a few more minutes here, and we have a few questions from the chat that we can go ahead and dive into right now. Have any of you all ever stopped playing your instrument for an extended period of time? And if so, how'd you get back into it? That's a question from Tone Wolf Theo.
I'm going to go first. Mine's really short. I have actually not dropped my instruments at all. I've continued to play throughout everything.
There was a time like during the longest March 2020 ever where I just wasn't motivated to touch my guitar. I just felt like everything that I played was awful. Just like, and I went through times where I would just like what's I just pick it up. It's just like everything is terrible. But I mean, it just like kind of what eventually you just pick it up again. And you're like, okay, this is fun. Like, why didn't I do it the whole time? And now I have them all on a rack here, so I don't think that'll happen again. Because
And it's a beautiful rack of guitars, by the way.
yeah, it's not bad. I am happy about the rack, seeing all five of them lined up. Uh, so yeah, I mean, there's always dips, I guess, in interest, and like I said, I got very discouraged like back like in 2004 when I like realized I hit the ceiling, and then I got into plastic guitar because it was just that instant gratification of hearing the songs while learning a video game skill, and eventually I just came back to it. I mean, this music is something that's inside of you. Some people always have it. Some people try it for a bit and decide it's not for them. But I know for me, it's always going to be there, even as much as I pick something up and like I can't do anything. I'm always going to pick it up again, for me at least.
So my second year university, I was going away to school, and I didn't pack my guitars because all I cared about was World of Warcraft.
That's a common story. Some people get sucked into WoW, and that's like it. You never see them again. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you came back from Azeroth.
Oh
You
man,
got
I
brought back
remember
to the
those
light
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got another question from the chat from IO Squared. If you could play a different instrument, what would it be?
The hurdy-gurdy.
Ooh.
I'd say piano. I just every time, I watch these pianists play stuff, I'm in awe. Like, and the thing is, like, sure, I could play fast with my left hand, like fretting, but like this hand, I just pick with it. That's it. So when I watch, these beautiful passages, it's like, I don't know how they're doing that. I wish I could do it. Maybe at some point I'll try, but yeah, I wish.
I'm gonna interpret it as own, so I'm gonna say a war guitar. I don't even know what I would do with it. I would probably just be like this, but I would. The answer is war guitar.
And I find Griff's answer really interesting, mostly because if Doug were here, he would agree with you. He wants to learn to play the hurdy-gurdy because he kept sending me links to it on YouTube saying, God, I just want to get a hurdy-gurdy. He destroyed my YouTube algorithm. Now all his recommendations for hurdy-gurdy videos.
That's all you need, though.
Like,
online.
Yeah.
There's a lot of niche sellers that make them. But yeah, they're the internet. That's where you get everything nowadays. We have a question from Elisa Rockdoc. How have you adapted music making and performing for these unprecedented times we find ourselves in right now?
Oh, Elisa, first off, I love you so much and I miss you so much. I wish I could give you the biggest hug ever. And honestly, like, I don't know how to answer the question. I really don't. I'm just doing what we do. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to keep going on with your consistent pace. Sometimes it's fine to, it's great to find sort of consistency in normality in that normal thing that you've always been doing.
I find that you can find a little bit of joy in the streaming of Rocksmith. Sometimes you're in the moment and you almost for a second forget about things. We'll just leave it there. So music can be a good escape from reality in these unprecedented times.
Hear, hear.
Let's see. I think we have a few more questions here because we're going to wrap this up real fast. What are your favorite DLC songs if you had to pick one? And that's from Tomel.
Death Crystal Mountain. The best.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
And solid pack.
One of the first songs that I learned on my own as a kid. And when it was released, the best.
I'm gonna say I'll just say Maggot Brain because I've always that song, and even though I haven't hit like 80% in the song yet, it's still it's awesome. It's a triumph for me.
I had to explain, or somebody had to explain Maggot Brain to me and how deep-seated of a thing it was in the Rocksmith community. Because I think I was only a year into working with the Rocksmith community when we released Maggot Brain. Now, it was like a celebration when it happened, and I was like, "Is there a reason that they're super into this one right here?" And Doug had to sit me down and actually explain that one to me.
Just feel like it's like the funk Freebird. It's like it's this epic guitarist. It's like a guitarist guitar song, but at the same time, it's very out there. Like it's very exploratory. Like there's a lot of outside playing. And I mean, I guess I kind of memed it a bit because like I just started predicting it in every single Variety Pack article or every single 70s article, and eventually the licensing came through. So it was that and OPIF, obviously. OPIF is the greatest DLC pack of all time, and I'll put it above Radiohead to shock people.
Well, I'm glad we could come through on that. Griff, did you have a favorite DLC track?
Yeah, I really love Cerise by Ghost. I don't know what it is, but that bass line, man, it gets me going, man. I don't know what it is. It's just it flows so well.
At first, when I listened to Ghost, and the first time I listened to Ghost was the week before we released that pack because I had to start working on a lot of the content for that to go out on social media. And so I had my Spotify open, I started listening, and I was like, okay, this is sort of weird. And I listened to Cerise, though, and Cerise is the one that was like, okay, I'm a Ghost fan. That's just how this works now. I fell in love with how melodic Cerise was,
Yes,
and how
and
great of a tune it was.
that is exactly why I love Ghost. It's just their melodies, their harmonies, their vocals, just everything just comes together to create this wall of sound. And it's a completely different experience live, because if anybody has a chance to go see Ghost whenever we're allowed to do things again, go see Ghost. They put on a hell of a show.
Oh yeah, I have a few friends that have. I think they've actually used my apartment to go, because I used to live next to Nashville, and they used my apartment because they drove up. They were like, "Hey, we're going to stay at your apartment, and then we're going to go to this concert." And it was for Ghost, and then I think they also did it for Sabaton as well. Both who I think do fantastic live shows. Well, I think that's about as much time as we have right now. I want to thank our guest today for joining us and answering these questions and just being absolutely wonderful today. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you. So next up, we have our performance segments, of course. We also are going to have a song pack giveaway before that even happens, though. So right now in the chat, UB Yubble is going to start dropping song pack giveaway codes for the Christmas Classics song pack. And there's a reason for that, because our next performer is our developer, Shane Gann, who will be playing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee. So right after that, though, we're going to be having Rykin for a little bit of guitar show and tell, so stay tuned for that. And then after that, we'll have another performer on, and we'll talk to you after that.
Rocking around the Christmas tree, let the Christmas spirit ring. Later we'll have some pumpkin pie and we'll do some caroling. You will get a sentimental feeling when you hear voices singing, let's be jolly, deck the halls with boughs of holly. Rocking around the Christmas tree, have a happy holiday. Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way. Boughs of holly, rocking around the Christmas tree, have a happy holiday. Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned
Amazing performance.
Hey guys, Rykin here from Rocksmith, and today I'm here to show off my Sir S1 Pro, which is a guitar I've actually had for at least probably 10 years, but I recently upgraded the pickups, had the pickups swapped out, and put this cool new tortoiseshell pickguard on it. So yeah, like I said, I've gigged at least 1,000 gigs with this thing over the years. Always was super happy with it as a player's guitar. Neck super comfortable, you know, stays in tune perfectly all the time. Great bridge, Goto bridge. This is one of my favorite floating tremolo systems for sure. But I always thought the pickups were just a little lackluster. I was never happy with the stock Sir pickups, so I went with the upgrade, and now I have this Holy Diver, actually Bare Knuckle, Holy Diver pickup by Bare Knuckle. So it's a Bare Knuckle pickup. It's a pretty hot bridge position humbucker. It's supposed to be voiced for like rock to hard rock to metal. Yeah, it's I'm happy with the sound so far. It's also got these cool, I don't know if you can see that, but sort of relicking going on the stainless steel pickup case. I've never seen anything like that. I thought it was awesome. Had to have it. These two are Seymour Duncan vintage hot stacks. So they're basically like single coil type, but they are noiseless and fairly high output to match this one, which is high output. So there you have it. Rather than noodle, just sit and like shred in the room, I'm gonna actually this time go ahead and plug into my computer, lay a few riffs down, and that way you can really hear the sound of these pickups, you know, isolated as well as in a track. So yeah, that's it. Let's go do it. All right, so I'm set up now to record straight into my computer. I'm gonna be using Reaper as my DAW. And I'm also using a Fractal FM3, which is a brand new piece of gear I got for the guitar tone amp modeling. Really awesome. I'll probably do a separate video on that. So my process of recording riffs is like, you know, obviously I'll write the riff first. And then I really like to get a kick snare pattern going that I'll just put together in something like Easy Drummer. That way, when I write the riff in a certain tempo, I usually already do have a kick snare pattern in mind. Now, you can obviously just record to a click, but I find that having that, you know, simulated drums really kind of helps you, it helps your rhythm, and it helps you kind of see where the accents are, and not to mention it's a lot more inspiring than just playing to a click. The other thing I do is I'm going to double track everything. So I'll do the first take, and then right away I'm just going to record a second take on a different track of the exact same part. And then when I go back to mix, I will pan them hard left and hard right, and really helps to, you know, add a lot of dimension and fullness to a riff. Some people like to record more than 2 tracks. I find that once you start getting into like 4 tracks, it does start to muddy up the definition a little bit. No matter how precisely you play it, it's just kind of like you lose some of the attack and nuances in like the single notes. So that being said, let's try this.
Welcome back to the Rocksmith developer stream. That was Shane Gann that was playing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree from the Christmas Classic Song Pack, which has been being dropped in chat by UB Yubble. Thank you again, UB Yubble, for being here, dude. And that was Rykin with his guitar show and tell of his Sir. And also a great recording demo using Reaper and his DAW. Next, we have Sam Schwartz, who's going to be playing A Mad Russian's Christmas in one of the most animated fashions I've ever seen on a stream. And during that, UB Yubble is going to be dropping the Trans-Siberian Orchestra song pack. So we're going to go into that right now. Stay tuned.
exceptional performance.
Sam, if you're watching, you most absolutely have my vote for the most animated performance of 2020. If there's an award, you would get it. Also, if you guys enjoyed Sam's performance, you can actually find him live today performing online. UV Yubble should be dropping that link in chat anytime now. But I'm almost positive and can almost guarantee that performance will be just as lively. We also still have our community guests here today. And if you enjoyed hearing from them today, they're going to tell you where you can find them online.
All right, so I oddly enough, I stream Rocksmith for a living on Twitch. If you go to twitch.tv/Chainbrain, you can see me there. I'm live almost every day. I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Chainbrain. Got some Rocksmith videos up there if you care to watch them. But yeah, I think if you just Google Chainbrain, I'm all kinds of stuff there. You can find me easy.
All right. So mine's going to be in kind of two parts. I'm going to make it quick. So for the next 2 weeks, I will be at twitch.tv/GryffindorChick. Come January 1st, 2021, we will be known as twitch.tv/Griff. I'm so tired of the Harry Potter questions, and I'm ready for it to stop. So if you want to catch a base stream, I'll actually be doing that tonight, twitch.tv/GryffindorChick. I hope to see you guys there.
You can find me on all social media as Toymachinesh. And also, of course, check out the riffrepeater.com on for all your Rocksmith information and news. And hopefully 2021, we have something to talk about.
Best unofficial Rocksmith source. That's what I'm going to say. I want to thank you all again for joining us today. I want to thank Shane Gann and Sam Schwartz for their performances and spreading that Christmas joy. And I want to thank Rai Ken for his guitar show and tell. I want to thank you all for watching the stream today. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope you all have a very safe and wonderful time going into the new year. We'll see you next year, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Rock on.